My world tilted on its axis the moment her hand struck my face. The slap was so sharp and unexpected that, for a second, all I could register was the bright, stinging pain that blossomed across my cheek and the ringing in my ears. Clara's furious words sounded as if they were coming from a great distance. "Alex, how could you be so vile? I could almost tolerate you giving Leo a hard time, but this? Spreading disgusting lies that he's some kind of homewrecker, knowing he's like a brother to me, it's despicable." My head was spinning, a dull throb starting behind my eyes to match the sharp pain on my face. Homewrecker? What was she even talking about? I stood there, utterly bewildered, while Leo, her childhood friend, sulked just behind her shoulder, the picture of a wounded victim. A crowd of our classmates had gathered, their eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Their whispers were like a swarm of insects buzzing around me. "I can't believe Alex is actually that vicious," one of them said. "Weren't you all aware of how possessive he is with Clara? It's not a shock he'd pull a stunt like this." Another chimed in. "Slandering someone like that is just plain immoral." I hadn't done anything. I felt a wave of nausea as I realized I had no idea what they were accusing me of. It was a complete misunderstanding, and I struggled to find the words to explain myself. "It wasn't me," I managed to get out, my voice sounding weak and unsteady. "I didn't do it." As I spoke, I tasted something metallic in my mouth. Someone in the crowd gasped. "Oh my God, his mouth is bleeding." Clara saw it too, and for a fleeting moment her angry expression faltered, replaced by something that looked almost like regret. But before she could speak, Leo seized the opportunity, his voice loud and accusatory. "If it wasn't you, then who was it? You were the only one who knew Clara and I went out last night. Alex, I told you to your face. I've let your petty jabs slide before, but framing me like this is going too far. You need to apologize or I won't let this go." Leo's words were like fuel on a fire, and any trace of guilt vanished from Clara's face. She looked at me with cold eyes and demanded, "Apologize to Leo, now." I refused. I couldn't apologize for something I was innocent of. The blood continued to well in my mouth, and finally, a classmate of ours named Mark stepped forward and offered to take me to the nurse's office. Despite her fury, Clara allowed it. "Go see a doctor," she said, her tone clipped, "but you will apologize to Leo later." Mark helped me to the nurse, and it turned out Clara had hit me harder than I realized. My cheek was already swelling, and my lip was split open. After the nurse cleaned me up, Mark walked me home. On the way, he filled me in on what had happened. Someone had created a post on the school's online forum with photos of Leo shirtless, standing right next to a half-dressed Clara. The post included a whole gallery of pictures showing them being overly familiar, with a caption calling Leo shameless for interfering in our relationship. The comment section had exploded with insults directed at him. Naturally, both Clara and Leo were convinced I was the culprit, but I knew it wasn't me. The truth was, I had lost my phone the night before and hadn't seen it since. If Mark hadn't told me about the post, I would have remained completely in the dark. I assumed it was all a simple misunderstanding. I thought if I could just explain everything to Clara, she would realize her mistake, feel terrible about it, and apologize for falsely accusing me. Instead, I was about to face a punishment far harsher than a slap. 3 hours later, Clara and Leo showed up at my door, and in Clara's hand was my missing phone. She stormed into my room without a word and threw it at me. "What do you have to say for yourself now?" she demanded. I picked up the phone, my heart sinking as I saw the forum posts. The account that had posted everything was registered in my name. "It wasn't me," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I swear my phone has been missing." She sneered. "Liar! Your phone was on your desk the whole time. The account is yours, and you're still trying to deny it?" I had no idea how my phone had gotten back to my desk. I had searched my room thoroughly that morning and found nothing. Something felt deeply wrong about the whole situation. "There have to be security cameras in the classroom," I pleaded. "Let's check the footage." Clara just gave me an icy stare. The cameras were broken. Her voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "Alex, I'm giving you one last chance to make this right. Apologize to Leo, admit you were wrong, and promise you'll never do anything like this again. If you do that, we can put this behind us." I couldn't bring myself to do it. "I didn't do it! I swear it wasn't me!" Leo, standing behind her, shouted, "All I want is a little fairness and an apology. Is that really so much to ask?" If I had actually done it, I would have apologized without hesitation, but I was being framed. "I've been wrongly accused here," I insisted. My refusal was the final straw. Clara's patience snapped. She grabbed my arm and dragged me down the stairs, shoving me toward the front door. The Morton family's mansion had a grand entrance with about 10 stone steps leading down to the driveway. In her fury, Clara flung the door open and pushed me out with all her strength. I tumbled down the steps, my body hitting the cold stone with a series of jarring thuds. It was only thanks to the thick layer of fresh snow on the ground that I wasn't seriously injured. By the time I managed to scramble to my feet, the heavy front door had slammed shut. Winters in J City are unforgiving, with temperatures that regularly drop to 10 degrees below zero. Clara had thrown me out without my coat. The biting cold seeped into my thin shirt and through to my bones almost instantly. I hammered on the door, my voice hoarse as I begged for her to let me back in, but she ignored me. I could hear her telling the housekeeper, "Don't let him in. He needs to stay outside and reflect on what he's done." I had no coat, no phone, and not a single dollar in my pocket. All I could do was stand there in the freezing darkness, pleading with the woman I loved to show me some mercy. She was relentless. She ignored my apologies and my desperate cries. Finally, when I was shivering so violently I could barely stand, my pride shattered. The bitter cold and overwhelming despair stripped everything away, and I caved, begging for forgiveness for a crime I didn't commit. I thought that would be enough. I thought my surrender would make her open the door, but I was wrong. Her voice came from the other side, cold and heartless. "It's too late. Everything has a deadline, Alex. If you had apologized earlier, I would have let it go. But you were stubborn, hoping you could bluff your way out of it. You needed to be taught a lesson." She wouldn't let me in, so I curled up into a ball by the door, trying to preserve what little warmth my body had left. A profound sense of hopelessness washed over me. I had nowhere else to go. I was an orphan. My parents had died in a car accident 3 years prior. After our engagement was set, I had moved from my hometown in City A to J City to live with the Mortons. To their credit, they didn't cancel the engagement after my parents passed away. They welcomed me into their home, let me stay with them, and even transferred me to the same prestigious high school as Clara. When I first arrived, Clara had taken such good care of me. She helped me navigate the darkest days of my grief after losing my family. Back then, she was a constant presence by my side. We would walk to and from school together, and she always knew my favorite snacks to buy. Whenever my chronic stomach problems flared up, she was the one who got me medicine and gently reminded me to watch my diet. At school, she made it perfectly clear to everyone that I was her fiancé. Clara was beautiful and intelligent, and her kindness was a light in my darkness. It didn't take long for me to fall deeply in love with her. I became anxious if I couldn't see her, sticking to her like a shadow. But everything changed when Leo returned from abroad and re-entered our lives. Leo was Clara's childhood best friend. They were born on the same day, had lived next door to each other, and had been inseparable from kindergarten all the way through middle school. He had moved abroad with his parents for 5 years, but came back when their overseas investments failed. He transferred into our school during the second half of our sophomore year, and immediately started seeking Clara out at every opportunity. I was not happy with how much he seemed to rely on her. My complaints, however, fell on deaf ears, and Leo's behavior only grew more intense. It started with him asking her for help with tutoring, then progressed to him wanting to walk to and from school with her. Having lived in a foreign country, he claimed to have no sense of personal boundaries with girls. He would casually drape his arm over Clara's shoulders or pull her in for a tight hug. He even kissed her on the cheek, dismissing it as a simple, foreign greeting. But if it was just a custom, why did he only do it with her? I felt that Leo was trying to make a move on my fiancé. I told Clara about my concerns, but she just said I was overreacting. She insisted that she only saw Leo as a brother and told me to stop being so paranoid and jealous. I was so crazy about her that I wanted to believe her, to trust that their relationship was purely platonic. But Leo kept pushing my buttons, always finding ways to demonstrate that he meant more to her than I did. Clara would drop everything for him. If I was feeling unwell, but Leo called saying he had a slight headache, she would rush to his side. She canceled our movie plans to help him search for his missing cat. Once, during a heavy downpour, she chose to share her umbrella with him, leaving me to get soaked in the rain. Leo's constant demands on Clara's time and attention drove me mad with jealousy. I grew to loathe him, and the tension between us became so thick you could cut it with a knife. But no matter how much I despised him, I would never stoop so low as to ruin his reputation. I knew how wrong it was to slander someone like that. So if I wasn't the one who took my phone and posted that filth about him, who was? I couldn't wrap my head around it. The cold was becoming too much to bear. My shivering became uncontrollable, my limbs grew stiff, and the world faded to black as I collapsed onto the snow-covered ground. I woke up 7 days later in a quiet, sterile hospital room. When I opened my eyes, the housekeeper who had been watching over me let out a sigh of relief. "Alex, you're finally awake. You gave us all such a scare." I tried to speak, but my throat was too raw. I could only look at her weakly. The nanny helped me sit up and propped some pillows behind my back. "Are you hungry? I made some congee for you. The doctor said you shouldn't have anything greasy for a while." She then added, "Oh, I need to call Miss Clara and let her know you're awake. She's been here watching over you these last few days. I only managed to convince her to go home and rest this morning." Clara arrived quickly. By the time she walked through the door, I had finished the small bowl of congee and was leaning back against the pillows, staring blankly at the ceiling. Her voice snapped me out of my daze. "You're awake? How are you feeling?" I turned my head to look at her. She looked utterly exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, as if she hadn't slept properly in days. As I gazed at the face I used to adore, the face that used to make my heart race, I felt nothing. The love I once had was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness. "I'm feeling much better," I replied softly. "Thanks for checking in." When I said thanks, a strange expression flickered across her face. She sat down on the chair next to my bed and took my hand in hers. "Alex, Whatever she was about to say was cut off as the door burst open and Leo rushed in. "Thank goodness you're awake, Alex. Seeing as you've been sick and for Clara's sake, I'm willing to let go of the false accusations you made about me. Just don't do it again." I looked at Leo, not bothering to muster the energy to argue. I knew I was innocent, but at that point, what did it matter? The damage was done. The utter despair I had felt before passing out in the snow had extinguished any desire to entangle myself with him further. When I didn't respond, a flash of disappointment crossed Leo's face. He turned and affectionately grabbed Clara's arm. "Clara, you haven't rested for days. I'm worried about you. I'll stay here and watch over Alex. You should go home and get some sleep." I watched him holding her arm. A gesture like that used to send me into a jealous rage, but now I felt absolutely nothing. I didn't want to see either of them. I gently pulled my hand away from Clara's grasp. "You should go get some rest," I said, my voice flat. "I'm tired. I want to sleep." Leo led a reluctant Clara out of the room, leaving me alone to stare at the ceiling once more. For the first time, I didn't care where they were going or what they were doing. Would they hug? Would Leo take advantage of his role as her brother to get too close? I suddenly realized that this whole ordeal had purged me of my love for her. Frankly, even if she and Leo were to sleep together, I didn't think it would bother me in the slightest. The day I was discharged, I went back to the Mortons' house on my own. My room was a complete mess. The small glass figurine Clara had given me for my birthday was shattered on the floor. The large teddy bear that sat on my bed had been scribbled all over with a marker, its cheerful face now a grotesque mask. The nanny, who had followed me upstairs, wrung her hands nervously. "Leo was staying here for the past few days. He was using your room. He might have accidentally—" I cut her off. "It's fine. It's nothing important." I crouched down, carefully picked up the broken pieces of the figurine, and dropped them into the trash can. My eyes then fell on the defaced teddy bear. I remembered it was the first gift Clara ever gave me. When I had first come to live with the Mortons, I was terrified and grieving. I would cry myself to sleep under the covers every night. Clara had given me that bear to hold, saying it would help me feel safe and less lonely. I used to treasure it. But now, looking at its ruined state, I felt no attachment. "Auntie," I said to the nanny, "please throw this away." She looked hesitant. "But this was a gift from Miss Clara." "Throw it out," I repeated firmly. "I don't need it anymore." The nanny took the bear and left, closing the door behind her. I lay down on my bed and could hear their voices faintly from the hallway. It was Leo and Clara. "What's this about? Alex wants it thrown out?" "The bear got dirty. It's my fault. I accidentally messed it up." "What's Clara going to say? Is Alex mad? Should I apologize?" It took Clara a moment to respond. "It wasn't on purpose. Why apologize? He's just being spoiled and dramatic." I covered my ears, shutting out the sound of their voices. I knew Clara and Leo were in the room next door. I didn't want to make any noise, so I just stayed in my room. I found that I not only disliked Clara now, but I was also afraid of her. I was afraid she would hit me again, afraid she would scream at me over something related to Leo. It was an exhausting way to feel. Later, the nanny knocked on my door to call me down for dinner. I went downstairs slowly and saw that Clara and Leo were already seated at the dining table. Leo was smiling, placing a piece of food on Clara's plate. "Clara, this is your favorite," he said in a sweet voice. I never forgot. I tried to make myself as inconspicuous as possible, sitting at the far end of the table and eating quietly. I used to crave every single moment with her. Now, even sharing a meal at the same table felt like a form of torture. Leo kept up a steady stream of conversation with Clara, and they served each other food and drinks as if I wasn't even there. Time seemed to drag on endlessly. I felt no joy, no sadness, just a profound sense of awkwardness. I kept my head down, trying to become invisible. Finally, after finishing my bowl of rice, I stood up, relieved. "Take your time. I'm going back to my room." Clara's sharp voice stopped me. "Why did you eat so little? Didn't the nanny make your favorite fried ribs? Why didn't you have any?" Her tone was harsh, questioning. I backed away slightly, feeling uneasy. "My stomach isn't feeling well. I can't eat anything greasy, sorry." I left the room quickly, feeling her cold, critical gaze on my back. She probably hated me now. I knew I had to avoid any and all conflict with her and Leo. That night I lay in bed, my mind racing. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, I got up quietly. The nanny was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. She looked surprised to see me. "Alex, why are you up so early?" "I'm in a hurry to get to school," I said. I skipped breakfast and left without waiting for Clara to give me a ride. I took the public bus instead. From the Mortons' house, it was a slow 2-hour journey to school. Even though I had left early, I barely made it on time. After being away for a week, my return to school was met with stares. Even though the infamous forum post had been deleted, everyone knew about it, and it was clear they all blamed me. As I walked into the classroom, I could hear the exaggerated whispers. "He's got some nerve showing his face here after what he did. If I were Leo, I'd never forgive him. Stay away from that guy. He's clearly unhinged." The words stung, but I had to pretend they didn't bother me. I walked to my seat and sat down. Just then, Leo's voice came from behind me. "Alex, this seat is mine now." I had been sitting next to Clara ever since I transferred to this school. We had never been apart. Now he was claiming my spot. I glanced up at him and saw the challenge and malice in his eyes. There was no point in arguing. I gathered my books and belongings and moved to an empty desk in the back of the classroom. By the time Clara arrived, I was already settled in the last row, completely absorbed in my textbook. In just 1 week, I had fallen seriously behind, and I needed to catch up. I didn't even notice her until she slammed her hand down on my desk, startling me. She was staring at me with a hostile expression. "Is there something you need?" I asked. Her face grew even more upset. She gritted her teeth and said, "Are you ignoring me?" "No, of course not," I replied quickly, realizing that the joy and affection I once felt for her had been replaced by fear. "I didn't do anything. I was just reading. You can ask anyone." With a loud thud, she slammed her hand on the desk again. The sound instantly brought back the memory of her slapping me, and I flinched, instinctively moving back in my chair. She looked me up and down with a contemptuous expression, then just scoffed and walked away. The morning classes passed quickly. As usual, at the break, Leo turned to Clara. "Clara, want to get lunch? They're serving my favorite today." Clara didn't answer him. Instead, she glanced back towards where I was sitting. Not wanting any more trouble, I quietly stood up and slipped out through the back door of the classroom. As I left, I heard the sound of a chair being kicked over, and Clara's frustrated voice yelling, "Is he seriously competing with me?" At lunchtime, instead of going to the main cafeteria, I went to the smaller, less crowded one. After eating, I went to the library and studied alone until it was time for the afternoon classes. Clara and Leo weren't in class. Someone mentioned that Leo had accidentally fallen, and Clara had taken him to the hospital. After school, I received a text from her. "I'm tied up. Head home alone and be safe." I didn't reply, and just took the bus back to the Mortons. With her out of the house, I felt a rare sense of peace. I enjoyed a large, quiet dinner before going back upstairs to study. Just as I was getting ready for bed, my aunt, Mrs. Morton, called. She and my uncle were in Switzerland for an important business deal and had been away for some time. The housekeeper must have told her about what had been going on. On the phone, she expressed her concern for me. "Clara's behavior was completely out of line. I had no idea she treated you that way. I know you, Alex. You wouldn't do something like that, and I apologize on her behalf. Please don't take it to heart." I didn't expect her to believe in me, and her trust brought tears to my eyes. "It's okay, Auntie. I haven't taken it to heart. Clara and Leo have known each other forever. They're practically siblings." She replied firmly, "Alex, you're the only one I see as being worthy of Clara. No one else can compare." A few months ago, those words would have filled me with joy, but now they meant nothing. After reassuring me, she added, "I'll have a talk with Clara. You just focus on your studies and don't worry about anything. Once you both graduate, we'll start planning your engagement party right away." A cold feeling washed over me. "There's no need for that, Auntie. I'd rather not rush into an engagement." Her surprise was evident in her voice. "But didn't you want to get engaged as soon as possible before?" "I was young and naive back then," I said. "I understand things better now. Let's wait until after we finish college. There's no rush." After I hung up, I looked up and saw Clara standing in my doorway, watching me. I had no idea how long she'd been there. Our eyes met, and she gave me a cold smirk. "Alex, are you trying to stir up trouble with my mother?" I looked at her, confused, unsure of what I had done to upset her this time. She glared at me for another moment before turning and storming out of my room. The next morning at breakfast, Clara was already at the table, talking on her phone, her eyes fixed coldly on me. "I don't care. If he doesn't want to get engaged, then fine. It's not like it's the end of the world for me." I could hear my aunt's voice on the other end. "What's with your attitude?" Clara retorted, "Whatever. Just tell him this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he should think it over carefully." I kept my eyes on my bowl of porridge, avoiding her glare. Her hand was gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles were white, and her tone with her mother was clearly agitated. I knew they were talking about me. Maybe Clara was starting to have regrets. Honestly, so was I. If I could go back in time, I wish I had never come to live with the Mortons. But it was almost over. In just 3 more months after the college entrance exams, I would be out of here for good. I hadn't really had any interactions with Clara lately. She was always with Leo, going everywhere with him. They ate together, hung out after school, went to the movies, and even went hiking. Leo made sure to post about all of it on social media, so everyone in our class was well aware. My friend Mark couldn't contain his curiosity anymore and asked me, "Alex, what's going on with you and Clara?" "Nothing much," I replied. "But you two don't even talk anymore. It's not like how it used to be." I kept my head down, focusing on the math problems in front of me, not answering. Mark pressed on. "Did you break up? Is it because of Leo? So he really did get between you two, huh?" Before I could say anything, Clara's cold voice cut through the air. "I thought you had changed, but you were just biding your time, weren't you? I guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right, Alex?" Mark saw the fury in her eyes and quickly made himself scarce, leaving me to face her wrath alone. She didn't hold back, scolding me mercilessly. I remained calm through it all, feeling no sadness or heartache. All I wanted was to get back to studying. So I offered a sincere apology. "I'm sorry, I truly am. I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" There was no arguing, no hysterical denials, just a swift and direct apology. That should have satisfied her, but she looked even more upset, her eyes turning red as she stared at me. The hand she was pointing at me was shaking. "Alex, you... Her expression was so intense it startled me. Why wouldn't she accept my apology? Last time she had hit me because of Leo without even asking for an explanation. Gathering my courage, I pointed to my own face. "If you're still angry and can't forgive me, you can slap me again, just like last time." Clara was taken aback, watching me with her fists clenched at her sides. I closed my eyes, bracing for the impact, but the expected pain never came. Instead, I heard a loud bang. I opened my eyes just in time to see Clara's back as she walked away. She hadn't hit me. Instead, she had angrily knocked over a nearby table before storming out of the classroom. I apologized to Mark, who was still standing nearby looking dumbstruck, helped him pick up his books, and then calmly returned to my desk as if nothing had happened. Clara didn't come back to class that afternoon, and, as usual, Leo was gone with her. Later that evening, I received a call from Clara's best friend, Olivia. "Alex, Clara's had way too much to drink. Can you come and get her?" Without a moment's hesitation, I refused. Call a driver for her, or get her a cab. I used to treat Clara like she was the most precious thing in the world. I would have never turned down a request like that before. Olivia was clearly not expecting my refusal. She hesitated, then said, "You should really come. She's having a complete meltdown, and no one else can handle her." "Let Leo handle it," I said flatly. His words seemed to work better than mine. Annoyed by my reluctance, Olivia retorted, "What is wrong with you, Alex? Just come get her. Why are you making so many excuses?" Olivia and Clara were incredibly close, so a request from her was practically a command from Clara herself. I had no choice but to get dressed and head out. I followed Olivia's directions to the private room at the bar and could hear their voices from the hallway. Olivia was saying, "Clara, are you sure you want to cut ties with Leo just because of Alex? You're closer to Leo than anyone. This doesn't make any sense," Clara replied, her voice slurring slightly. "I know it's not good, but you've seen how jealous Alex gets. He likes me, and he'd do anything for me. He hurt Leo before. Well, I'm just afraid he'll do it again." Olivia sounded defensive. "Do you really like Alex that much? Are you losing yourself over him?" "It's not about liking him. It's about responsibility," Clara sighed. "Our parents arranged our engagement. Now that his parents are gone, I can't just abandon him. It's my duty. As long as he doesn't do anything too extreme, he's going to be my husband for life." So, all this time, she had only seen me as a responsibility, and I forced a bitter smile. Thankfully, after what had happened, I had started to see things more clearly. Otherwise, hearing her words would have shattered me. I knocked heavily on the door, cutting off their conversation, then casually stepped inside. I kept my distance from Clara. "Can we go now?" She just stared at me without moving. Olivia said, "Clara's drunk. You'll have to help her up." I didn't want to touch her, but I had no other choice. As I helped her to her feet, she leaned heavily against me. The smell of alcohol mixed with her perfume was nauseating, but I gritted my teeth and half dragged her out of the room. We didn't say a word to each other on the way to the car. I didn't ask why she had been drinking so much, or if she needed anything for her hangover. It felt like I was completing a task. I helped her into the back seat, shut the door, then got into the front passenger seat and told the driver our address. All the way back to the Mortons' house, I kept my eyes closed, mentally reviewing vocabulary words for my exams. Clara seemed uncomfortable in the back, making restless noises, but I didn't turn around. I focused solely on my studies until we arrived. As soon as the car stopped, she stumbled out before I could help her. She refused my assistance, so I wisely kept a distance of about 10 meters behind her as we walked to the house. Her aunt, who was back from her trip, heard the commotion and came out to check on us. She helped Clara inside, asking her if she was all right. Seeing that she was in good hands, I felt a wave of relief, turned around, and quietly went upstairs to my room. Once inside, I lay down without any further distractions and had a good night's sleep. The next morning, I woke up early as usual, ready to head to school. But when I went downstairs, I was surprised to see Clara sitting on the couch in the living room. Our eyes met, and I reluctantly greeted her with a forced smile. "Morning?" "Morning," she replied. "Let's have breakfast and leave for school together." I was a bit taken aback by her attitude, but it didn't matter to me anymore. "No thanks. I'm in a hurry, so I won't wait." As I started to walk past her toward the door, she grabbed my hand. "Alex, do you really hate me that much?" Hate her? Definitely not. The Mortons had done so much for me. I had no right or reason to hate their daughter. I had once thought she liked me, and I certainly liked her back. I had depended on her completely, thinking I couldn't live without her. But after she slapped me and left me to freeze outside, I realized that she didn't like me at all. No one would treat someone they genuinely cared about with such cruelty. Hearing her admit last night that she only felt a sense of responsibility and duty towards me had, in a strange way, put me at ease. I didn't hate her, not even a little. The only thing I needed to do now was focus on my studies, get into the university I wanted, and stay as far away from her as possible. She was still staring at me, waiting for an answer. I shook my head. No, nothing like that. I don't hate you, and I have no reason to. She pressed. I know you blame me for what happened, and that's why you're being so distant. How about this? You can slap me, 10 times if it will make things even. I shook my head again. You're overthinking it. The last incident was entirely my fault. If I had just admitted my mistake and apologized earlier, none of this would have happened. Really, I brought it on myself. I don't blame anyone. You say you don't blame anyone, but you still give me the cold shoulder? You act like I'm a stranger? I'm not giving you the cold shoulder, I said quietly. I just don't want to be locked out in the freezing cold again. That slap really hurt, and that night was miserable. I never want to experience that kind of pain again. If you hadn't done anything wrong in the first place, no one would have locked you out, she said, finally letting go of my hand. I lowered my head and said calmly, I'm not perfect. I can't guarantee I won't make mistakes in the future. To prevent myself from hurting others again, it's probably better if we just keep our distance. That way, no innocent people get hurt. I had never hurt anyone, but I also had no way of proving that it wasn't me who had posted those awful things about Leo. The posts had come from my phone, even though I had no idea how the account was created or how those pictures and videos got there. The fact remained that my phone was the source, and I had already been punished for it. I didn't know if something like that would happen again. All I knew for sure was that staying away from Clara and Leo meant I wouldn't get hurt again. I thought I had made myself perfectly clear. I assumed her pride wouldn't allow her to keep pushing the issue, but surprisingly, she insisted that I have breakfast with her and that we go to school together in the same car. It was the first time since the incident that we had arrived at school together. When we walked into the classroom one after the other, Leo greeted us with a wide grin. Clara, you and Alex made up? Clara didn't reply. She just looked at Leo and said, Move back to your old seat. This one is Alex's. I saw Leo's face darken for a second, his eyes flashing with anger, but he quickly masked it. He said playfully, Clara, can I move later? I need your help with this math problem. With Leo clinging to her for help, I felt a sense of relief as I took a seat further back in the classroom. Honestly, the thought of sitting next to Clara made me anxious. I truly didn't want to. I hoped Leo would find a way to keep me from having to change seats. During the next break, I went to the bathroom, and Leo followed me. He stopped me just outside the door. Alex, we need to talk. Seeing the malice in his eyes, I agreed without a fuss and followed him to a deserted corner of a stairwell. Away from everyone else, Leo dropped his fake smile completely. You know what? You're really annoying. Just downright irritating. I watched him quietly as he sneered. You seem to have a few tricks up your sleeve. Even after everything that's happened, you managed to get Clara to be all friendly with you again. It must have felt great when she told me to move away just now, right? Do you think I felt great? I replied, coolly. Having her defend you didn't make you happy? I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. Clinging to Clara with some fake childhood engagement, acting like a poor orphan to squeeze pity out of her and make her feel obligated to you. You know she doesn't love you. She loves me. She only feels sorry for you and thinks she owes you something. Leo thought his words would infuriate me, but instead I was completely calm. I already knew. You knew? He looked dumbfounded. You knew she didn't like you, and you still cling to her? Wow, Alex, you have no shame. I'm not clinging to her, I emphasized each word. Oh, really? I suppose you're not playing hard to get now, huh? You used to follow her around like a shadow, and now you're trying a different tactic, hoping that sitting next to her again will bring things back to the way they were? Dream on. Quit being such a pest. I frowned at his angry face. Watch your mouth. I'm not shameless. How am I supposed to be polite? Clara and I grew up together. She's liked me since we were kids. Who do you think you are, just popping up out of nowhere and trying to split us up? I looked at his twisted expression and felt a wave of exhaustion. If you're going to keep talking about this meaningless stuff, I'm leaving. When I turned to go, he blocked my way. Hold on. I'm not finished. Do you know what Clara and I were doing at the hotel that night? We kissed. I didn't react, just continued to stare at him blankly, which seemed to make him even angrier. Oh, and you know about those posts? The photos of me with Clara? I know it was you who leaked them. You know? He looked at me, surprised. How could you possibly know? I watched his shocked expression and smiled faintly. How could I not know that Leo had set me up? It was painfully obvious. I was certain I hadn't done anything so dirty. At first, I genuinely thought someone was trying to frame him, and I even tried to figure out who was behind it. But then he conveniently moved to sit next to Clara, and they became even closer. Meanwhile, I got a slap in the face, nearly froze to death, and became the subject of campus gossip. Leo, the supposed victim, received all of Clara's attention and care, while I, who had done nothing wrong, became the villain. If Leo truly didn't have feelings for Clara and just saw her as a sister, I might have believed he was an innocent victim. But he had been asserting his dominance over me from the beginning, and I had finally figured out his game. There was no real victim here. It was just a matter of who was playing whom. The moment I realized Leo was the one who had made those posts, I thought about telling Clara. But given her attitude, I let it go. I wasn't confident I could make her believe me, so I gave up on trying to explain. I never expected him to come to me and confess everything himself. His motives were transparent. He looked quite ugly in that moment, clearly overestimating his own intelligence. He had always thought he could manipulate me. So, what if you know I messed with you? He sneered arrogantly. I won't even try to hide it. I stole your phone that day. Clara told me your password. I used your phone to create a new account and posted all those photos and videos I'd been secretly taking to frame you. He wasn't scared of me at all. After laying out his entire plan, he couldn't resist provoking me further. I thought Clara wouldn't believe me so easily. I didn't expect her to soften up just because I acted all hurt. I guess she just doesn't like you enough. You're right, I sighed. She didn't like me enough. And that's why you got your chance. But you really are shameless. I looked him in the eye. So why did you ask me to come here today? It definitely wasn't just to confess that you framed me. Let me guess. Clara is starting to distance herself from you, and you're getting desperate. You wanted to get me here to set me up again, right? His expression twisted into a snarl. Didn't expect you to figure that out, did you? So are you going to make a move or not? If not, I'm leaving. Seeing me so blatantly call out his plan, his eyes turned vicious. Since you're so eager to die, don't blame me. Alex, you're dead meat. As he spoke, he suddenly leaned backward, preparing to fall over the railing and down the flight of stairs. The stairs weren't high enough to kill him, but the fall would definitely cause some serious injuries. He wanted to frame me for pushing him, just like last time, but I was ready for him. As he began to fall back, I lunged forward, grabbed his hand, and pulled him back up. Trying to jump and blame it on me? You really are committed, aren't you? I won't let you get away with it. You're not jumping no matter what. I won't let you. He cursed at me. Let go of me, Alex, you piece of trash, let go. No way. Unless you drop this act and stop trying to frame me, I'm never letting you go. You bastard, let go, or I'll make you pay. Ignoring his threats, I held on tight and slammed his head against the wall. He pleaded, Let go, Alex, please let go. Only if you promise not to jump, otherwise I'm not letting go. The pain was too much for him, and he had no choice but to give in. "Let me go! I won't jump! I won't accuse you!" I loosened my grip, and his face immediately twisted back into a sneer. "You're dead. I swear you're dead." With that, he threw himself over the railing and tumbled down the stairs. I stayed where I was, watching him roll down and start screaming like a madman, "Help! Help!" In no time, a group of students came rushing over, drawn by his cries. He lay on the ground, shrieking, "Alex pushed me! It hurts so much!" I saw Clara push through the crowd, her face a mask of panic. Seeing Leo on the ground in pain, she was both worried and furious. She rounded on me, shouting, "What happened? Tell me what's going on." A student who had arrived first answered for me. "It looks like Alex pushed him." "Why would you push him? Have you gone completely insane, Alex?" On the ground, Leo whimpered. "It hurts so much, Clara. It hurts so badly. Am I going to die?" Someone who was actually dying wouldn't be talking so much. I smirked to myself, keeping my lips sealed as Clara glared at me. "You're unbelievable." She pushed past me and ran to Leo's side to help him up. The moment she touched his arm, he squealed like a pig. "It hurts. It hurts so bad." The school nurse arrived shortly after, but couldn't do much, as his screams indicated real pain, not just an act. His arm was broken from the fall. They called an ambulance to rush him to the hospital. Clara climbed into the ambulance with him, but before the doors shut, she shot a final, threatening look my way, gritting her teeth. "Just you wait. This isn't over." I knew it wasn't over. Incidents like this are a major headache for school administrators. They called me into the office for a talk and immediately contacted Leo's parents. They grilled me about why I had supposedly pushed him. I stuck to my story, insisting that Leo had jumped on purpose and that I hadn't pushed him at all. When they couldn't get a confession out of me, Leo's parents came storming in, furious. His mother burst into the office, cursing and yelling, and looked like she was about to hit me. The administrators had to step in to hold her back. She started throwing around threats about getting me expelled or calling the police. I calmly looked at them and said, "Please call the cops. Let's get the police involved." Hearing that I wasn't backing down, they stopped talking about calling the police. Instead, they tried to pressure the school administration to expel me, claiming I was a threat to their son. The school, fed up with the whole situation, called my aunt and uncle. Pretty soon, Auntie was on the phone with me. "Alex, what's really going on?" she asked. "Auntie, I didn't push him. He jumped." I half expected her to react like Clara, to not believe me and accuse me of lying, but she didn't. "Okay, Alex, I trust you. What do you need us to do?" "Report it to the police, Auntie. Let them handle this." I was determined to involve the police, and my aunt and uncle supported me completely. Meanwhile, there was not a word from Leo's side about getting the police involved. His mother's attitude shifted from aggressive to trying to sweet-talk me. She suggested that if I transferred schools and apologized to Leo, they would drop the whole matter. Of course, I refused. Then I got a call from Clara. She was fuming. "What is wrong with you? Are you 3 years old? Do you even realize you've broken the law?" "If I've broken the law, then let the law deal with it. I don't need your input." Her voice got even angrier. "So you're just going to gamble with your future? You better think this through, Alex. Get to the hospital and apologize, or things are going to get nasty." "Is that Leo's idea or yours?" I shot back. "Does it matter? What matters is that you messed up, and you need to face the consequences. Leo is willing to drop it if you just apologize. Do you really want this to go to the police?" "Yes, I absolutely want it reported," I told her plainly. "If you don't call the cops, I'll do it myself." In the end, I was the one who called the police. They showed up and asked me to explain what happened, but I didn't say a word. I just took out my phone and played the recording I had made in the stairwell. Leo's threatening voice filled the room. The police officers did not look impressed when they heard it. "This is outrageous," one of them exclaimed. Leo's previously bold parents turned pale, and the school administrators just shook their heads. I asked the police officer deliberately, "I want to know, how do you handle a case where someone falsely accuses another person? Is there a legal responsibility involved?" "Absolutely," he confirmed. Leo's once cocky parents quickly changed their tune. They started talking about coming to an agreement and asking for forgiveness for not raising their son properly. They even offered me financial compensation, which I turned down. I only wanted one thing: for Eric's slanderous recording to be played loud and clear for everyone to hear, so they would all see his true colors. In the end, his mother slapped herself across the face a few times and got down on her knees, begging me to let her son off the hook. "Leo was just being foolish. Please give him another chance. We'll keep him in line from now on." I smirked at her and said coldly, "I want a public apology and a full admission from Leo. Plus, I want compensation for my emotional distress." His parents didn't dare disagree. They would rather settle the matter quietly than have their son's antics exposed, ruining his reputation. After hours of negotiation, they caved. They paid me $500,000 in damages, promised that Leo would apologize, and swore that he would never bother me again. But they had their own condition. They wanted me to promise to bury the recording and never speak of the incident again. When the money hit my bank account, I handed over the recording to them. After everything was settled, I returned home, acting as if it were just any other day. I had dinner, relaxed, and went to sleep. Clara didn't come home that night, and I didn't bother asking where she was. She did, however, send me a barrage of text messages, grilling me on why I wouldn't let her dear little brother off the hook. She wanted me to apologize to Leo to patch things up. Her last message was about how generous Leo was for being willing to let it all slide. I didn't respond to a single one. The next morning was a Saturday, but I was rudely awakened by the sound of my door being kicked open. I groggily sat up in bed to see Clara standing there, looking furious. "I've called and messaged you 100 times. Why didn't you answer me?" I answered lazily, "I turned my phone off." "You turned it off? Seriously? And now you're just sleeping in?" She looked at me like I was insane. "Alex, do you even understand the mess you're in from yesterday? Leo's arm is broken. Do you know what that means? It's a level 10 disability, which could land you in jail." I put on a mock scared face, so she softened her tone a bit. "Listen, thanks to me, Leo has decided not to press charges. He's even dropping the demand for an apology." "Really? He doesn't care if I apologize?" I asked, a smirk playing on my lips. She got a bit ticked off. "What's with that attitude? This is only because I persuaded him. But even if he's letting it go, you still need to do something. You have to come with me to the hospital and apologize to him." Worried that I might refuse, she added, "By the way, Leo and I are completely innocent. I've always thought of him as a brother, so don't get any weird ideas about us in the future." After breakfast, she dragged me to the hospital. Leo's entire family was in his room, and they all looked somewhat alarmed when I walked in. I looked at Leo, whose arm was in a sling, and smirked. "Weren't you going to apologize? Now's the time." His parents quickly got up. "We'll step out so you two can talk." Clara followed them out, but not before reminding me, "Alex, this is your last chance. You better apologize properly or else." "Or else what?" I looked at her coldly. She avoided my gaze. "If you bully Leo again, then our engagement is off." The room fell silent. I stared at her face for a long moment, then slowly turned to look at Leo. His face was as pale as a sheet, and he was clutching the bedsheet tightly with his uninjured hand. I could see him trembling. He was clearly terrified that I might reveal the truth and ruin his whole scheme. Most of all, he was afraid of me taking Clara away from him, but I wasn't about to make a foolish move like that again. If her slap before was because she was ignorant of the facts, her unwavering trust in Leo now had left me completely and utterly disappointed in her. You can be kind and innocent, but you can't be stupid. I don't know how Leo managed to earn her blind trust, but the way she cared for him made me feel sick to my stomach. I couldn't imagine marrying a woman like her, only to watch her hurt me over and over again for another man. It would be like living in hell. In a way, I was grateful to Leo for showing me Clara's true nature. After she delivered her threat, she shut the door. I looked coldly at the pitiful figure of Leo on the bed. Are you ready to apologize? You should show some sincerity, or else... His arrogance had vanished completely. He was a natural actor, and tears started flowing on command. His apology was well rehearsed, but to me it was just boring. He concluded by saying, "I'm thinking of taking some time off from school." "Is that so?" I asked with a faint smile. "All the past stuff was my fault. I've seen the error of my ways. To stop bothering you and Clara, I've decided to stay away and take a break from school. You can trust me." Trust him? I'd have to be crazy. Leo wasn't the type to change. I could see the lies in his eyes. I had a pretty good guess as to what he was scheming, but I didn't call him out on it. It was his business, not mine. The tension between Clara, Leo, and me eased up for the time being. I threw myself into my studies wholeheartedly. From the outside, it might have looked like Clara and I had returned to our old ways, going to and from school together. But I knew our relationship could never be the same. I avoided any physical contact with her and spoke to her politely but distantly. If she asked me a question, I'd answer, but I never initiated a conversation. Clara kept herself busy studying, taking soup to Leo at the hospital and helping him with his schoolwork. According to her, she was making up for my past mistakes. Initially, she wanted me to go with her, but I refused. With final exams just around the corner, I was too busy to play along with their drama. Eventually, she started going to help him on her own, always sending me texts with pictures and videos to reassure me of their innocence. But why would I care? I had already started planning my move out of the Mortons' house. Back when I was younger, I had nowhere else to go and needed their help because distant relatives were eyeing the inheritance my parents had left me. Now that I was about to turn 18, I would soon be able to use the law to reclaim what was rightfully mine. With money and confidence, I no longer needed anyone's protection. It was time to part ways with Clara. I began packing my things at the house, bit by bit. Clara was so busy with school and her hospital visits that she was completely oblivious to my room slowly emptying out. A week before finals, I packed up all the gifts she had given me over the past 3 years. She happened to walk in as I was putting them in a box and paused. "What are you doing?" "Packing," I replied calmly. If she had been paying attention, she would have noticed the signs, but clearly her mind was elsewhere. She sat down heavily on my couch, looking grim. "You know Leo took a break from school." I glanced at her blankly. Her eyes were filled with blame. "His hand isn't healing properly, and now it's gotten infected. He can't take his final exams. If you hadn't pushed him, he wouldn't have had to take time off. He'd be taking the finals with us and getting great grades." Her worry over Leo was making her irrational. It was just a broken arm, yet he had managed to drag out his hospital stay for a month. Now there was a supposed infection. Anyone with a clear head would be suspicious, but not Clara. She was probably so smitten with him that she didn't doubt a word he said. I'd been getting photos and videos on my phone of her with him. She was tutoring him, feeding him, peeling fruit for him. Things she never even did at home, leaving tasks like that to the housekeepers. It seemed like she really, truly loved him. After all, they grew up together. If I hadn't come into the picture, maybe they would have ended up together. But had I really done anything wrong? To be accused and insulted like this? "I'm not usually a hot-headed person," I said calmly. "So just tell me what you mean. Do you want me to apologize again, or should I drop out of school as payback?" My indifference made her furious. "How can you be so cold-blooded?" she snapped. "Alex, how are you so unaffected by all of this? I really misjudged you." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I took the box of packed stuff and threw it all in the trash outside. I didn't see Clara for the next few days, not until she returned for the college entrance exams. We rode in silence to the exam site since we were assigned to the same location. The 3-day testing period flew by. As I walked out of the hall after the last exam, I let out a huge sigh of relief. The Mortons' car was waiting outside. I got in and waited for about half an hour before Clara came out. She immediately checked her phone and then instructed the driver, "Don't go home, head to Leo's place." I had no intention of being a third wheel, so I opened the car door. "I'm heading back." Clara was annoyed. "Why are you going back?" "Alex, you have to come with me to see Leo. He's getting discharged from the hospital today." "What does that have to do with me?" I scoffed. "It has everything to do with you. It's your fault he's in this mess in the first place." "I didn't do anything," I told her, my patience worn thin. "Leo's problems have nothing to do with me. Don't try to guilt-trip me." "You're so heartless. I completely misjudged you," she fumed. When I refused again to visit him, she issued an ultimatum. "If you don't come with me, then we're breaking up." I just shrugged. "Fine, let's break up then." Without a second glance, I got out of the car. When I got back to the Mortons' house, I booked a flight and called my aunt and uncle to tell them about my plans to go home. They were kind and suggested I wait until they could return to accompany me, but I declined. I couldn't stand to be around Clara for another minute. I knew what Leo and his family were up to, and it was only a matter of time before she got caught in their trap. But because of the Mortons' kindness to me over the last 3 years, I didn't want to see her get hurt, and I didn't want my aunt and uncle to be let down. I sent my aunt the backup audio and video recordings I had of Leo. After hearing them, she was furious. How could they be so despicable? "I'm calling Clara right now to tell her to get away from those people." She called Clara immediately, but Clara ignored her calls. Even when her mother warned her about Leo's intentions, she assumed I was behind it all, trying to manipulate the situation. An angry Clara texted me. "Your malice makes me sick, Alex. I've never hated anyone this much in my life." Around the same time, an unknown account sent me a video. In it, Clara and Leo's family were celebrating with a toast in a private room at the city's fanciest hotel. Everything looked far too cozy. I had a very bad feeling. While I couldn't care less if Clara was exploited, I didn't want her parents to be upset. They had done so much for me, and she was their only daughter. If she was used by that family, they would be devastated. I couldn't let those disgusting people win, so I sent the housekeeper and the driver to the hotel from the video. When we got there, it took some effort, but we found out that Clara had had too much to drink and had been moved from the private room to a hotel room by Leo's parents. Leo had then walked into that room with her. When the door was busted open, he was completely naked, straddling Clara and trying to pull off her pants. He turned his head, and the nasty snarl on his face was as ugly as could be. He screeched, "Damn it, Alex, you bastard! You'll get what's coming to you." What he got in reply was the sharp sound of my slaps echoing around the room. Clara was rushed to the hospital by her aunt and the driver. It turned out she had been given some kind of hallucinogenic drug. They started treatment for her right away. Her aunt and uncle, who were still abroad, sighed with relief once they knew she was safe and dropped everything to come back immediately. The next morning, I was rolling my suitcase out of the Mortons' villa. A cab took me straight to the airport. Before boarding the plane, I deleted and blocked all of Clara's contact information. As the plane surged into the sky, I looked out the window at the endless blue expanse and thought, "Goodbye, Clara." After that, I focused entirely on my graduation, and then on travel. I went to Europe, exploring Germany, France, the UK, and Switzerland. I even made it to Denmark, where I saw the awe-inspiring Aurora Borealis. I was in Denmark when the college entrance exam results were released. My hard work had paid off. My score was significantly higher than I had expected, more than 20 points better. I smiled at the screen of my phone. I didn't stop my travels after submitting my college applications. My next destination was Antarctica. There, I saw penguins, seals, and all sorts of seabirds. I took zodiac and rubber boat rides to get up close with massive icebergs and glaciers. With a guide, I hiked across icy plains and rocky terrains. After more than a month of adventure, I finally headed back home to prepare for my move to M University. Clara and I had once planned to go to Q University together. QU was her dream school, not mine, but I had been ready to go there for her. After things went so wrong between us, I changed my application to MU instead. I never expected to see her again, especially not at MU. She looked worn out when she found me on campus. "Why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Weren't we supposed to go to QU together?" I didn't know how to explain to her that the moment she chose to stand by Leo, our story had already ended. She tried to explain. Leo and I had nothing going on. It was just a sibling-like affection. I never thought he would stoop so low. She told me that his parents were on the brink of bankruptcy because of a series of bad business decisions, and they wanted to use her. The Mortons' family business had always been successful, and Leo's parents were hoping he could get close to her so she would eventually fund their failing company. She mentioned that all of them, including Leo, had faced legal consequences for what they did. Then, she apologized. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I was a terrible judge of character. I regret everything so much. Can we go back to how things were?" But what was the use? "I never go back, Clara," I told her gently. "So you don't need to regret anything either. Just keep moving forward. There's a better view up ahead, waiting for you."